When the words action game are uttered, fairies are usually the last thing that come to mind, unless you happen to be selling their lopped-off wings and ears for doubloons. Folklore is out to change your mind, a one-part RPG and all-parts action game coined the next generation of dark fantasy. Beautiful visuals and a unique approach to combat are enticing, but look through the pixie dust before taking the plunge. Folklore dives into the world of the supernatural through a tale of two travelers, a girl named Ellen pursuing her dead mother, and Keats, an occult magazine writer in search of the truth behind the paranormal. Their ventures lead them to Doolin, a quaint Irish seaside hamlet by day, and crossroads of the creepy crawlies, known as folk, by night. These unlikely heroes eventually learn of the Netherworld, and with a mix of trepidation and curiosity, take separate paths, unaware of the monsters and mysteries lying in wait. The game features a complex narrative that bounces between Ellen and Keats' journeys, the gruesome skeleton-ridden closets of the citizens of Doolin, and the plight of the fairies in the Netherworld. From suicide to patricide, the story and its breadth of themes set a morose and unsettling tone that creeps into every crack of the game. The overlying story structure between Ellen and Keats doesn't change much in terms of plot, but playing through each character's scenario unravels the story through a different vantage point, changing how certain events and characters are approached. The differences are subtle but present, and players wanting to fully uncover the mystery surrounding Doolin will find themselves playing both sides to achieve the full experience. Folklore is a title brimming with duality. On the surface, it's a game that's as much action as it is RPG. Delve deeper and you'll find a number of elements that follow similar binary relationships. The first choice that you'll have to make is who to follow, Ellen or Keats. This decision not only affects whose side of the story you'll follow, but the style of fighting as well. Ellen utilizes a tactics-based approach to combat, while Keats is more of a brawler. Then there's the day and night aspect. Entry into the different fairy realms is limited to nighttime hours, so for the duration of the day, you earn your meal ticket by finding keepsakes of the dead to use as tributes for passage. It's here that the pendulum swings towards the game's RPG element by having players scouring Doolin for leads. You'll come across a number of troubled characters in need of resolution with the dead, who are more than willing to fork over mementos for your cause. Once pocketed, you make your way to the Netherworld at night, where the pendulum swings towards the action portion of the game. Daytime activity serves as a nice recess from the game's action bits, but it can be slow. If you were expecting an action game through and through, you're going to spend just as much time snooping for clues and doing investigations as you will kicking folk to the curb. And when you do get into the action, most of the levels are incredibly linear and brief. As a balance, the game ponies up a number of online features via the PlayStation Network, including the ability to create and share player-made maps and download bonus content with additional folk, costumes, and quests. Each will reward you with 3 to 4 hours of play, albeit in the same dungeons you've already traversed. These piecemeal installations of content show commitment to lengthening Folklore's shelf life, but players interested solely in offline content will find the game lacking in length and substance. Each fairy realm in the Netherworld is a host to a number of unique folk equipped with their own unique abilities that Ellen and Keats can absorb. As folk are weakened, a single upward thrust of the 6-axis controller allows Ellen or Keats to ghost bust a folk's essence, sans proton pack. That folk's essence is then transferred into an attack that can be bound to any of the 4 primary face buttons. These folk attacks run the gamut from quick slashes and slow and lumbering strikes to far-off volleys and, well, bubbles. Folks make for interesting stand-ins to conventional weapons and magic found in other action games. You're never really limited to a set number of swords or spells. With folk, you can have as many folk combinations as your imagination and 4 face buttons will allow. Switching folk in and out of your arsenal is easy thanks to well-organized menus, but brief loading times after every switch puts a damper on the game's flow. Folks across the fairy realms are plentiful and yours to conquer. Sub-bosses and bosses, however, are tougher nuts to crack. Aside from using specific methods to dispose of them, revealed to players by picture book diagrams collected in-game, tougher folk require a more complex method of exercising them out of their bodies. Thankfully, the use of the 6-axis controller in Folklore isn't as useless or intrusive as it is in some other games. Folklore's action may not give God of War or Heavenly Sword a run for their money, but its methodical nature is enjoyable and original. The gratifying yank of a folk soul definitely carries more gravity than picking up orbs and taking them to the local shop, and using said folk against his former allies is sure to draw some smiles. For the most part, everything is silky smooth and cohesive until you get to tougher enemies that'll require you to go through your inventory of folk like a roulette wheel, trying to pin down its weakness. Sifting through menus, often during battle, is never a good thing, and the aforementioned delay after switching folk in and out doesn't help matters much. Folklore's spooky narrative is bolstered by an impressive combination of graphics and art direction that drives its dark fantasy motif home. The dramatic contrast between Doolin's rustic exterior and the fairy world's otherworldliness is evident by the game's choice of hues and carefully constructed environments. Each folk creature looks like it was pulled straight out of Tim Burton's personal sketchbook. The only real blemishes in Folklore's presentation are the poor voice acting,
"Not a chance in hell! We'd never make it back!"
and half-baked cutscenes. Rather than short animated vignettes, the game uses in-game models to pantomime dialogue laid out in speech bubbles like a dull comic book. Though it worked for Vagrant's story, Folklore doesn't benefit much from it. Just like its fairies, Folklore is a game that has definite charm. Just don't count on its effervescence to produce a long-lasting result. Despite its pretty package, many of the game's strongest points are marred by incongruities that keep it from excelling in a genre where excellence has already long been established. Don't be fooled though, Folklore is still a more than capable and unique action game that warrants notice, if not a spirited rent.